In our last episode, we asked why a single product, gasoline, forces businesses to put giant 9-foot tall glowing neon signs on the highway just to track its price. But today, we're talking about a place where there are no giant neon warning signs on the road to prepare you for the price tag. You only find out the damage when you're already standing at the register, watching the receipt get longer and longer. The supermarket. Welcome back to Economy Insight. My name is Eddie Baldwin, also known as Eddie the Talented. Now, to be honest, this episode is going to be a bit shorter and faster than our last one. Why? Because in episode 1, we did most of the heavy lifting. We already defined the big business terms you need to know. Things like supply and demand, inelastic demand, and how global events trigger that massive domino effect called inflation. That's why, if you haven't watched our last episode, I will highly recommend it so you can have more insight and understanding on the concepts in this video. But if you're all caught up, you already know that gas prices don't stay contained at the pump. They ripple through everything we buy because transportation is an invisible cost built into every single product. Well, let's get straight to the facts and answer our big question. Why have your monthly grocery bills skyrocketed? Let's find out. Now, before we figure out why it's happening, let's take a look at the actual damage. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, overall grocery store inflation, what economists call food at home, is up nearly 3% year over year. Now, 3% might not sound like a lot on paper, but here's the catch. That's on top of the massive price hikes from the last few years. The cumulative effect means we are paying way more for the exact same amount of food. And certain sections of the store are getting hit way harder than others. Look at these numbers. Fresh vegetables are up nearly 12% over the past year, and juices and drinks are up nearly 6%. So if you feel like your money is vanishing the second you step into the produce or meat aisles, you aren't imagining things. The data proves it. Let's unpack the first major domino causing this. Now I'm going to give you a throwback, connecting the dots back to episode 1. Remember how we said fuel touches every industry? Food is the ultimate example. Before a gallon of milk or a box of cereal sits here on a shelf in PA, it has to get there. The semi-trucks that transport food from corporate farms to giant distribution centers and finally to your local supermarket run entirely on diesel fuel. When diesel prices spike, shipping food gets incredibly expensive, but it starts even earlier than the truck. Modern farming is heavily mechanized. Tractors and harvesting machines require massive amounts of fuel just to plant and pick up the crops. On top of that, many fertilizers are actually manufactured using petroleum and natural gas byproducts. So, when global energy markets get volatile, the cost to grow the food goes up, the cost to harvest the food goes up, and the cost to ship the food goes up. Farmers and food corporations face massive overhead expenses, and just like we learned last time, they pass those exact costs straight down to us at the cash register. But fuel isn't the only thing driving up your grocery bill. We also have to look at labor and unique supply chain disruptions. To get food from a field into a plastic container and onto a shelf takes a massive amount of human effort. In recent years, processing plants, packaging factories, and supermarkets themselves has faced significant labor shortages. To attract and keep workers, companies have had to raise hourly wages. Now, higher wages for workers is a great thing, but from a strict business perspective, it increases the company's operational overhead. As my time at PFEW taught me, every single dollar a business spends to operate has to be accounted for. If a food manufacturing plant is paying more for raw ingredients, more for fuel, and more for labor, their profit margins shrink. To survive, they raise the wholesale price of the food they sell to grocery stores. Then, the grocery store raises the retail price you see on the shelf. Sometimes there's also a supply shock. For instance, the USDA pointed out that a massive cattle inventory shortage, the lowest herd sizes since the 1950s, is the exact reason beef prices have gone through the roof. Less supply plus high demand equals a much more expensive steak. So really, that's all. We're already back to our recap and our main question. Why have grocery bills skyrocketed? It's the exact same economic web we uncovered in our first episode, just wearing a different mask. It's the invisible cost of transportation, increased labor expenses, and global supply chain pressures all baked into one single grocery receipt. Food, just like gasoline, has a highly inelastic demand. We have to eat, so we keep paying the higher prices, which keeps inflation sticky. But now that you understand why it's happening, you aren't just a passive consumer anymore. You can see the dominoes. So, thank you for joining me for episode 2 of Economy Insight. Stay smart, stay informed, stay talented, and I'll see you guys next time.